our European one. Alex, we're thrilled to have you here, and I really can't wait to start discussion. But before this will happen, I, of course, would like to tell a few words about the agenda. Where is... then at the beginning, I will make a quick intro, what EAA stands for those one that maybe are first time. Later on, the main part of today's webinar, it will be our discussion. And of course, the last part will be for a question and from the audience. Of course, there will be, and we'll try to answer them. All right, then let's begin by grounding ourselves in what the European Accessibility Act really is. This is not a set of suggestions, it's just a law. The European Accessibility Act, shortly called EAA, is a binding directive designed to harmonize how European Union countries handle digital accessibility. As Article 1 states, it aims to remove fragmentations across members, states, and improve the availability of accessibility products and service within the internal markets. And this matters for both physical and digital products. But in our space, the focus is clearly on digital: website, mobile apps, e-commerce platforms, fintech tools, media streaming services, even some public sector's digital services. And the most important, the enforcement date is June 28th. That's just around the corner. If I count properly, it's only 2 days. So, who does this law actually apply to? First, if your organization operates in or even just serve users in the European Union, you are likely affected. This includes companies based outside the European Union as well. Second, you need to check if you offer products or services covered by the EAA, particularly in the digital space. They are listed on the presentation. I will not read it, but there's one important thing. It's not apply for everybody. There is a threshold. Micro enterprises with less than 10 employees or when turnover is lower than 2 million are exempt. Okay, let's talk about what accessibility actually means. It's not just about writing clean HTML or adding all text to images. Accessibility is more holistic. It's about your UX, content development, support experience, and the ability of users with disabilities to independently navigate all of it. The EAA relies mainly on the standard WCAG 2.1. We'll talk about that later on. It has 4 main principles that you can see here to be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Practically, it means things like full keyboard navigation, proper use of headings and all text, form accessibility, video caption, good contrast, and readable type. Let's now balance the conversation. Yes, there are, of course, some risk if you don't act, but there are, in my opinion, much more benefits and huge upsides. The risk, of course, includes some fines. I will go quickly through that because I think we shouldn't worry too much about this. Of course, you can be some court issues, some public exposure of violations, but I think much more important are rewards. If you are compliant with accessibility, then first of all, you make product easier for all users, not only for those ones that have difficulties. What's more important, by adding accessibility to your site, you have extra 100 million people in the UA at least that can better see your products. And finally, you build trust, you build your brand, then there's, I think, a lot of benefits and much more than sometimes you can imagine. All right. Few words about Xfive. For us, accessibility is in place for years. We taken this seriously really years ago, even though EAA was not so popular right now. In fact, back in 2019, we held 2 days workshops to train, certify our entire team. And our entire team means everybody, developers, designers, QA, project managers, in accessibility fundamentals. And I can easily say that today it's our part of our DNA, and we're using it on the daily basis. I think we'll talk about this as well later on. If you're wondering where to go next, here are the most important resources. There are more details you can find under those links. And those are the same standards we apply in every audits and accessibility strategy we deliver. They are not just for developers. They are useful for designers, project managers, even content creators. Those are cornerstones of both compliance and good digital citizenship. Last but not least, tools. Of course, they are as well very important. Without testing, you're just guessing. There's a few tools that we recommend that we use on the daily basis. And we can, of course, use them. Everybody can use them to verify if the site and the product works. Those tools can catch basic, of course, issues and help you shift left in your development process. But just remember, tools help you get started, but real accessibility requires human eyes and empathy. Always test with assistive tech, even better, test with users who rely on it. Okay, then that was, I think, really a quick intro to EAA. Now, I think it's a time for discussion how EAI can impact non-European clients. Should they worry? Are there similar regulation in North America? Then I think it's the right time to ask our guest, Alex, about that. Then, Alex, welcome again. I need to just, change a slide to show that we are on the right place in presentation. Alex, welcome again. Thanks for joining our webinar. Looks that something happened, but it's a perfect timing, Alex, because I just found that you disappeared for a sec, but I was just
sorry about that.
Yeah, that's
Internet connection 101. Yes,
that's always happening. That's all. Yeah, that's always happening in the live streaming, and then no worries at all.
Okay, we made it. I'm good. Let's see how long it lasts. We'll just talk quickly.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's. We still have a few minutes. Then I hope the connection will be enough stable. Then, Alex, as I said, welcome again. Thank you for joining and accepting my invitation. Before we dive in, how did you first get involved in digital accessibility?
Yeah. I mean, look, I've been in the digital space for longer than I care to admit. And back in the day, we weren't taught, right? We were just building websites, we were building apps, we were building widgets, Facebook pages, those things. And I think as more governments starting to come online, as more hospitals, public spots, cities started to have a web presence, accessibility started to become more of a thing, right? So it just became more aware. And then, so I'm based out of Canada. In Canada, accessibility laws started coming into effect, or they were talking about it 15 years ago, right? So clients started to ask us, especially in the public spaces, and we started to kind of go, okay, what is WCAG? Well, what is WCAG A, AA, all of those things. So it's been a progression. I would say it's probably been a slow progression, maybe slower than we would like. But I think we're finally globally talking about it and starting to implement it.
Okay, great.
What about you? When did Xfive start to think about accessibility?
I said, on my slides, I can say that officially and really strongly we started to focus on 2019, because that's when I remember we did the first really serious workshops for the whole team, entire team, where we certified the team. But I think it was even a few years before. I think that one of the reasons of that was, of course, we found that accessibility just helping to build better application, easier to use for the end users. But the other things, I think that as well has a huge impact. That was that one of our core values is to make some positive impact on the world. Then building the website accessible, to giving the chance people that very often had the difficulties with going through the website, was some kind of maybe mission. It's a bit too strong word, but it was one of our goals. Then we started to look, I think 2017, maybe it was when you mentioned the first accessibility things start to happen in Canada, then probably it as well somehow trigger us. But it was not mandatory at all. There was no discussion. But we found that, that makes a lot of sense. And this allows to, and even, we're not thought, I remember from the business perspective, that the more people will be able to use, there will be better conversion, because nowadays you can talk from that side. But we thought, then let's give a chance the people with problems to open normal sites to read them properly. And later on, we start to do it a bit more professionally. And after all those trainings, it's became a part of our service.
Yeah, I think it's always nice when doing good is also great business-wise, right? Because to your point, if you think about it, accessibility, yes, the intention is for those that have different needs to be able to access all of the content online. It also, though, makes it easier for people that don't have different needs to find the content, read the content. It's easier on the eye. It makes it easier for Google to index your content and to send the right people to the right content. So when you could say, look, this actually makes business sense and it's more usable, right? And as well, you're doing good and you're making sure that everyone can equally access your content. I think that's a much easier story to tell than you just have to meet these check marks.
But definitely, I think I like, we know each other for years. I think we have a similar approach and understanding. That let's focus first on the people, and the business naturally later on start to benefit
the right
from
thing first. The rest will work out.
And that's I think what's happened with accessibility in our case and our journey. But why do you think accessibility is becoming such a global focus right now? Why, those 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I think only few companies look on that.
Yeah, so I think two things. Number one, I think COVID was a huge impact, right? Everyone had to go online. We all worked remote. And so because now work, because education, because healthcare, because government services, everything had to be accessible online by everybody. It no longer became optional, right? It was something that had to happen. So I think that was the biggest push. I also think just in this day and age, there's a stronger push for inclusion, for different voices, for accessibility globally, I would like to say. And so I think those two factors have shifted it. There's also stronger litigation that has happened, right, especially out of the US as a result. Legislation, you had kind of said it, right? The ADA in the US, the ACA out of Canada, Australia has the DDA. There's definitely stronger groups advocating and passing laws about it. And these are on a federal level, and then they even go deeper, right? So I think that push has come as a result, hence the shift.
Okay, then you mentioned ADA, ACA.
A lot of acronyms.
Then let's set some context.
Yeah.
Can you
Okay.
give us some quick
Sure.
overview? Because
I'll break it down a little bit. So in the US,
I think that even in Europe for the people at EAA, it's confused. But you add all those ADA, ACA.
And I'll keep it sort of high level. But in the US, the Americans with Disability Act, and I think it's Section 508 as well. What they basically say is they want sort of websites and platforms accessible online to be WCAG 2.1 AA standard, right? In Canada, it's WCAG AA 2.0, sorry, AA. Canada has the Accessible Canada Act, the ACA. That's federal, and then every single province has their own thing. Like Ontario has the AODA, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, it's at a federal level, and then it also breaks down. These have been in place for a while. I will say now that the EU has theirs as well. And I think you kind of said it. Nobody has to panic just because it's the 28th. In Canada, there's definitely, once that date hits, it's not like there's a watch that goes and audits all of the sites, to check. It is highly recommended, and it is something you should do as you can. The one thing I will say, though, is in the US, they've had a lot more lawsuits around it. I think the lawsuits in the US is what's driven the compliance in the US. Canada hasn't seen that. Canada has kind of embraced it and done it more willingly, or because it's the law, not because of lawsuits. Does that help?
Yeah, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because it's already in place for years.
Yeah.
Then you see that ACA. Then let's focus on Canada Act. Do you see that it improved accessibility in Canada? You see that how it was implemented, and what are the results, results of?
Yeah, that's a good question. It definitely started in the public sector. Right? Like it was definitely when we saw RFPs comes out, or, requests for new platforms, every public sector, whether it was a hospital, a government, whatever it was a requirement, right? It has to be accessible. And so I think that's what drove it. And then, like we've said, when agencies started to get training on it, we also saw that usability wise, and that it just made better sense, and it made better sites. Right. And so I think then larger companies took it on. And I will say that honestly, in Canada, and I would say the US, and I know a lot of agencies globally, accessible websites is just what we do now. It's just, right, it's a base. It's not an add-on, it's not a thing. It's we build sites and they're accessible. We take a look at it from a UX standpoint. We take a look at it from how we develop. It's just what we do. I don't think now it's an add-on anymore. I think where the issue happens is you get a new site and it's accessible and everything's great. But sites aren't static, right? Sites change and grow and develop. I think the issue happens that the assumption is that once a site is accessible, it's always accessible. And that's just not true. Anytime you change an image, anytime you add a page, anytime there are basic sort of guidelines that you have to follow, like the image needs sort of text and subtext and things like that, tags. You need to make sure that you've also trained the team that maintains that site or that adds content on that site to make sure that they understand what accessibility means, and then they keep it up. So I think that's sort of the biggest issue that I've seen. Yeah.
I have one more question,
Yeah.
a bit step back to what you said as well, because it looks like, Canada make that system more incentive based, yeah, than US. It's a bit more strict, low as you driven, but the Canada was more nicer, I can say.
I don't think Canada was nice. I think both from a legal standpoint, I think both countries kind of approached it in the same way. They made laws around it. They had recommendations. They gave lots of leeway, all of that. In Canada, I don't think there were many repercussions to if you didn't do it. In the US, there are a lot of people that filed lawsuits. Like, I forget the number, but there were like thousands of lawsuits filed in like 2023 or 20, I forget, but it was like, it's significant. So I think that's what kind of caused a sort of fear or, a bit of like, I don't want to get sued. Let me make sure that I follow it. In Canada, that just didn't happen. Are you seeing that in Europe as well? Like, are you seeing sort of legal differences for what I'm saying happens here versus there?
I think that the Europe, it's looks like look on that from more friendly way. It's more, I think, prescriptive. Of course, it aligns with some European directives. There are very specific, I think, definition of how it should work. There are and I think, but on the other side, it's I don't see, compared to that there's a lot of discussion about fines, about suing to the court.
Yeah.
It's more, auditing, and more that if you will be not audited, of course there are some fines as well, but it's, I think, the last resort. Then more it's, that it can impact your reputation. It's more trying to convince you that if you will not do this, then you will have a lower audience, for example. And then I think that European Union tried to convince that it's definitely good to do from the reputation point of view. It's good to do because your business can, thanks to that, growth, but not, be so strict. On the other side, gives European Act gives, I think, pretty clear rules.
Right.
What I understand, American, it's more, a bit more flexible. It's maybe not so precisely defined. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, they're the same standard, WC AG 2.1 that we rely on, but I think there's more room for interpretation in the case of US.
The US. Okay, gotcha.
That's how I understand. But yeah, when we're talking about WC AG 2.1, but
Right.
the 2.2 is coming as well, and is it as well already in use in US, North America? Because it's a bit more, we can say, strict than 2.8. It was not super tough, I think, to fulfill.
Yeah, so I think officially 2.2 was published like October 2023 or something like that. So it's already been a year and a half, if not almost 2 years, right? But again, as I've said, when these are introduced, there's a lot of time given and leeway. So the honest answer is we don't implement for 2.2 right now. WCAG 2.1 is still kind of where we're at across Canada and the US. And I would even say Australia. Like, I think sort of we have a number of companies sort of everywhere, and that's where we go. Now, in the US, there are legal trends that are sort of now starting to push and moving towards 2.2, right? So I think, again, in the US, that's going to be the factor. The other thing I would say is companies who are redoing their sites right now, it would actually just make more sense to do it to be accessible for 2.2 and to start with 2.1 and then have to like rebuild sections or potentially. I don't think the difference is really that huge. I think it's just easier. Let's build for 2.2 if you're doing a new platform, or let's take a look at how big the difference is and let's upgrade. But honestly, it's not something that anyone has asked for right now.
Yeah. Okay. I think that we went a bit too technical with that WCAG 2.1, 2.2.
Yeah.
Maybe we can give some a bit short explanation what that exactly stands for, how it generally impact user interface. Yeah, how we can translate it a bit into less technical language.
Yeah. So, I mean, in English, what I would say, like in non-technical, okay, in non-technical terms, and I'm not technical, so maybe I'll describe it as easy as I can. It's more around, in general, what it means is, can you find all of the content? Can you refer to everything that's on the site if you have different needs, right? So, for example, if you need if you do not see colors in the same way, right? Or if you do not see all of the colors, or if you need larger text, or if you do not see, like if you're blind or things like that. So it's perceivable, like ensuring that you can see all of the content, that is images, audio, video, text, right? If you have different sensory abilities, number one. Operable, can you do all the things? Can you click on all the buttons? Can you open all the pages? Can you access all of the content? Because not everybody has a keyboard, or not everyone has just their phone, right? There's other tools that they have. Understandable, right? Are instructions clear, right? Not everyone has 150 IQ like you do, right? Some of us have lower. So is it sort of understandable for the general audience, right? The code itself, right? Is it robust? And there's a lot of sort of back end accessibility that also has to happen. Visual design, right? We had sort of talked about colors. There's contrast issues there. So even for someone who can kind of see the regular spectrum of colors, pink and purple and kind of all those different shades are hard. So if you put them next to each other in a background, not the best use. Navigation, can you reach everything? So it's that, right? I think where 2.2 now takes a step above is the touch, right? Because now we're so much mobile based and with our tablets, now there's a whole other section of, can I access it that way as well, right? Which makes it, the interactive elements makes it trickier. I think that's sort of, in layman's terms, that's the easiest difference. Yeah. And I think where that, like, even if we think about it, like we've talked about like interfaces, right? But what about sort of customer service and support channels, right? Because that's happening here as well, right? Where, if you call in or if you email, it kind of says, press X for different accessibility. Does the EAA address that as well?
That's exactly the case. That's
Yeah,
that's where exactly focus, because previously I think it was some common understanding that on just public institution needs to be accessible for the people. EAA make it much more wider. It's extended to, of course, as you said, support, chat, phone entries, help centers. Everything must be perceivable and operable by people with disabilities. Then if you have any telephone-based support system, email, contact forms, even live chats that are very popular right now, or even automated voice system.
Yeah.
Finally, even video calls that were those such one like we're here. Then everything, also those all kind of self-service kiosk where you the people need to do something, then where need to do it themselves. All of them needs right now to be compliant with EAA.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, then, but when we're talking, about EAA, of course, that's why I'm asking you for joining. You're out from Europe, and on the other side, of course, you have experience with the North American regulations. Then. How does that impact cross-border services? How does we can compare, in the case of ADA North America? Because in the case of EAA, then everybody that do business in Europe needs to comply, needs to be aligned with those regulations.
Yeah. So Europe is a community, right? The Canada and the US, I think, as everybody knows, are not. And I'm going to leave it at that. We're very different countries, right? And so there's no law across, both, right? There's no sort of law across the continent. But what I think just at a base, WCAG sort of 2.1 AA kind of thing. Like, I think that's where we build for. Even if I go across to Australia, it's that. I think that's the global standard right now. And so whichever country, even though the countries don't talk, and also businesses aren't local anymore, right? Maybe some are still, but a lot of them, especially now with AI and all of this, they're accessed from anywhere by everybody, right? And so I think just in general, that is sort of the global standard for it.
Okay. Oh, okay. I thought that you were frozen for a sec. Okay.
No, I'm here. I just paused.
Yeah. Okay.
My internet's okay for the time being. I think we're good.
I thought that I'm talking, but I think, then we need to be careful because we know each other, then we can talk for ages. I think that we don't have as much time, but still we have a time for a few questions. But okay, then in the case of EAA, there are some exceptions. For example, smaller businesses that are smaller than 10 employees or 2 million turnover are theoretically not, they can omit those regulations. Is it something similar in US or Canada?
So look, I'm not a legal expert on this. So my impression is that it's across the board, right? And when we build a website, like I said, it's just what we implement. We don't ask like, oh, are you a smaller company or are you less, this is just how we build. And so my answer is, I don't think so. But we'd have to look up the law on that, to be very honest. But are you finding, like, so from that aspect, are you finding that companies in the EU are like adopting it voluntarily, or are they going, oh, because I don't have to do it, it's fine, ignore it?
According to my observations, they're adopting that, even though it's not mandatory for them. Because again, as we already pointed a few times during our discussion, it makes a lot of sense, of course, despite from the business point of view, where they can get a more audience on the product, but they can show, that they brand it's going the steps forward in the case of, even though it's not mandatory, we are doing this. They're as well looking, even that's a bit connected with the previous questions. Then there are some experts in European regulations, but if it's not in the other countries, then if they're doing some border cross-border businesses, then it's better to be compliant as well. Then I think that European Union made such kind of exception, but maybe again, I think, looking on this, it's very friendly from this perspective, to give a chance those smaller companies not to invest maybe on this stage to accessibility. But I think that most of the companies finding that it's at the end not a huge investment and it's worth to do that.
Yeah. And so we keep saying websites, right? We keep saying sites as we're speaking, and I just want to put it out there because I think it matters. Is it just sites and like websites and apps that are under this, or are there
no?
Other?
It's much more, and that's another trick. That we are talking about the website, but it's not only, because it includes e-commerce. That's pretty wide. E-books, banking terminals, all those ticketing machines, every type of customer service tools. It's
any interaction that you have with a customer needs to be accessible.
Generally, when you have, I think, the client, business client interaction, then the business needs to give a client the tool that will be fully accessible. That's in my opinion.
Wanted to state that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm looking on the clock. We don't have a lot of time, but still a few more things we should touch, because let's address the elephant in the room. Should business really worry about those regulations? Of course, I'm looking from perspective of European Accessibility Act, but as well from those North America. What's your thoughts about that?
I mean, look, it's 2 days away, right? So I don't think anyone should panic, right? It's not like on the 28th, right? It's the 20th. It's not like on the 28th, someone will like audit all the sites and go, oh my goodness, right? Like that's not it. So, and I don't think so is my honest answer. And I think we've said it, it's the right thing to do. It's good business practice from all of the ways. I would also say that if you have an agency that is managing or building your site, I would be shocked and amazed to hear that an agency is like that. Accessibility isn't just the way that agencies now build sites. I think this is more relevant to companies that maintain their site in-house. And so I think I would kind of ask them to take a look. But any reputable agency should be the way that we now build.
Okay, I think I have very similar thoughts. Then maybe we can advise something to the business. What do you think are the first 3 steps that you can recommend those companies just starting this journey? I know that it's only 2 days left, but as we said, there's no time for panic. It's not the end of the world, and still we can do a lot even 2 days. If we're not doing 2 days, then still we have a bit more time, I think.
Yeah. Look, I think the first step is just do an assessment, right? Like there's a lot of online tools that you can use. Some of them are even free. You don't need to pay a lot of money. You can even get an agency, like yours, to do a quick audit, right? Like figure out how far you are. You might be fine. You might have used a template that is accessible and all is good. You might just need a few small tweaks, right? So first step I would say is just figure out where you are and what is required for you to be accessible, right? And then you can kind of figure out how long will it take, what you do and how you go forward. And then I would kind of say, once you've done that, make sure that you invest in training, right? Like I think, and maybe you can speak to this more. You need to, we've said that it's an ongoing thing, and anytime you update your site, you could potentially, break that. So make sure that the people that do touch your site and change your content, that they're trained. Let me know your thoughts though, because I know you have sort of a program.
I think similar one, because you
Yeah.
know, then that's not a big secret. You know, we are working closely together as a sister
Right.
companies, and a lot of things, and we are doing the very similar way, because we're exchanging that best practices from years. Yeah, then that's exactly the same way how we do that. I have just maybe question, but observation, and that I see that very often training is often overlooked, and is, I think, a bit of the problem, and that's what we need to improve. Okay, I'm afraid that we need to slowly finish. But I have
We could talk about this for hours.
I have one question. You know, then. And the last maybe from you, then how your team at XWP help clients prepare for those regulations? How it was?
Yeah. How
your
did we
side?
help them? Yeah, like I said, I think our team has been doing this for so long. Our from our sort of UX UI leads, they understand accessibility rules. Our wireframes, our designs are built with that in mind. Our devs, from a back end sort of coding perspective, it's what they take into account when they code, the way that we set up the site, especially we do a lot of editorial. So especially for that, we set it up so that the fields that you need for accessibility are required fields, right? To sort of make it as easy as possible. But we've been doing this for a long time, right? Like it's been over 5 years, if not 10. So it's just what we do. How about you on your end?
Again, I can almost copy paste your
Yeah,
answer. You know, then that's for us the standard
that's it.
for years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then maybe the what I can add. You know, every product that we release to our client, it's always in the end audited, where we look on, of course, on not only on accessibility, but as well on accessibility, but we look on performance, on different things,
Right.
and the clients gets the product that fulfill all those market requirements, and that's what's happening on our side. Yeah, then it's just a standard. You know, it's so normal. Then you know. I'm sometimes surprised when I still see some products that are not fulfilling so simple things, because you know what, you know, it's just we spoke about that. It's just a matter of good training, understanding what accessibility is, and later on implementation. It's very often very easy, and it's just the standard way of behaving in some way. All right, then we need to finish this part. Then I will the small, you know, then when we're talking about the audit, then I will quickly display how we, oh, by the way, do this on Xfive. And then so one of them, the examples of the audits, and right now it's accessibility audit that we can do for you. Then we have few types of audits. Then I, of course, recommend the simplest one, the free one, where you can quickly check if your website product is fulfilling all those expectations. Of course, if you need more help, there are two other options. Then please, you can contact us and we'll provide more details. Then time for questions. And there is one question, at least I saw, but it disappeared on my screen. But if I remember properly, it was implementation of GDPR, how our clients are aware compared to situation of GDPR. I can answer because, you know, I've been as well involved. GDPR is very European as well. In the case of, it was different story, totally different story. In the case of GDPR, then everybody talking about GDPR. There was a lot of discussion about fines, punishments, and there was a lot of a rumor on the all sides. Yeah, then I think every person in Europe been aware that GDPR is coming. That's definitely not the case in the case of accessibility. It is somehow very silent. That's why we're talking about that loudly today. In the other webinars we are posting, and some information on our social media. We try to a bit educate people that this is something that's happening, that it is impacting, and they can impact or impacting their businesses.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Do we have
any questions? I don't see.
I don't see any either. We'll give them one more minute.
Then that's good, because then maybe there will be difficult questions that we don't know answers.
Okay, we gotta go. It's nice chatting.
Yeah. Then the other way, we will finish on time. That's as well good. Then
there you
Alex,
go.
I think it was a very powerful session. As we, I think, found that accessibility is more mindset, not just a spec. And I think that in the case of especially European Accessibility Act that we are mainly talking, it's give us some kind of push that we just need to be more inclusive. But we can also see that clients from North America maybe shouldn't worry too much, because and they already had such regulations. And they are pretty similar. But of course, I strongly recommend verify if the products are comply with European and with North America regulation, because what we discuss as well, often even small adjustment can make it working, and it's not the dozens of hours to do that. Sometimes it's few hours of work, and the product can fully comply. And this then I think that, I hope it's take away from our discussion. Thank you, Alex, for joining me. It was really great to talk to you.
Thank you for the invite. Sorry for the heart attack when I dropped, but we made it work.
Exactly. I think that it works great. We'll
hear
later on when we need to do a survey to verify. Then if we'll do it well, then maybe we'll organize another one.
We'd love some feedback. And if anybody has any other questions, of course, they can always...
Of course, all questions are appreciated. They can be sent later on, and they can be sent via Xfive website or via XWP as well, and they will come directly to me and Alex. Then thank you, everybody, for joining. It was, I think, a good time for you as well, because for sure for me and Alex it was.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.